Woo! Good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday to everyone out there. How's it going? How you doing? Everybody in the live chat, what's happening? Good morning. I see we got a full crowd up in here. A lot of folks joining us this morning. Travis, what's happening? Jeff, how's it going? We've got Josh up in the building. Happy to see you, Wiggy. Rain Therapy up in here says he did not hit anything last night. Well, we did hit some pretty good picks. Probably the biggest disappointment being Mo Bamba of the Orlando Magic at 7.5 rebounds. Got into some early foul trouble, which undoubtedly impacted the final results. He ended up falling short on his rebound prop. Surprisingly, though, so did Wendell Carter Jr., who did not get in foul trouble, but could not find the rebounds. Meanwhile, I think Nikola Jokic ended up pulling in more rebounds than both Carter and Bamba combined. So that was probably the biggest disappointment from yesterday's stream. Leroy, good morning to you. Anthony, good morning to you. Jay, good morning to you. Kevin, what's happening? How? Welcome back. Good morning to you as well, Hal. Kevin, nice to see you again. Who else we got in here? Contract Killer 56. I just made a PrizePicks account. Well, welcome to PrizePicks and welcome to the live stream. Contract Killer 56. Andy Lopez, good to see you. Zamir, good morning. King LaBoy 21. Back in this thing. Let's go. He's off and running, man. I love to see that. Joe Dino, yo, what up? New York, we here. All the way from New York down to Florida, where I am this morning. Very nice day here in the Sunshine State. Good to see B-Got. Carl, what's happening to you, Carl? Nice for you to join us. Chris B. Ronald's Green, what's happening to you? Darian, nice to see you, Darian. Markel's back in here. Jalen, good to see you. Maxwell, nice for you to join us. Wes says, what's up? Rise and grind. Yeah, we have to rise and grind. We definitely have to get back to it. Short slate today, just 5 NBA games. Yo, back at you next. Good to see you this morning, my friend. Blip fan page. Hey, gang. Hey, back at you. Alexis is back up in here this morning. Alan, good to see you, my friend. Boston. He is a everyday viewer, subscriber, tuner, inner. Good to see you back again, Boston. Reggie's back in here. He says it was a rough night. Carlos, what's happening to you, Carlos? Euphoric Tay, nice to see you as well. All the shout outs going on to everybody who's joining us in the live chat this morning. Well, guys, 5 NBA games last night. Kind of I don't know, some rough patches. I was really on Joel Embiid's points. Did not end up working out. As you guys have already mentioned in the chat this morning, Joel Embiid just did not have it going last night. Now, historically, he has absolutely owned the Boston Celtics, but last night was a different story. The dude couldn't buy a bucket, fell short of his 22.5 point prop. And we already mentioned Mo Bamba. He was the other guy who really wrecked some of my entries, but nonetheless, yo, that was last night. Today's a new day, and we're looking to get back on the grind. So I appreciate everybody who's joining. We surpassed 2,700 subscribers in yesterday's live stream. Let's see if we could go for 2,800. Of course, the long-term goal here, the bigger goal here is try to get to 3,000 new subs, 3,000 subscribers by January 1st. That's my 1-year anniversary on YouTube, and I would love to get it done. So if you know anybody who plays player props, who's into daily fantasy sports, who's into sports betting, share the stream with them, share the channel with them. Let's get more people in here. Let's try to help as many folks as possible. I can't do it without your help. You guys drop some fantastic plays in the chat every morning. You guys are here liking these videos. You guys are here subscribing and supporting my work. And for that, I'm forever grateful. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart. So let's go ahead and start talking about some of the action on today's NBA slate. Starting things off here, we've got a pretty good matchup. Milwaukee Bucks at the Toronto Raptors, getting us started here at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. For the Milwaukee Bucks, a little bit of a change here on their injury report. And what I mean by that is Brook Lopez is not a game time, or he's not ruled out. He is actually a game time decision, which is the first time I think all season, or at least for a while, that I've seen Brook Lopez as a game time decision. Maybe he gets in there, maybe he ends up playing, maybe he doesn't, but just interesting to see him as a game time decision. Over on the Toronto side, we have to keep an eye out on Gary Trent Jr. He is also a game time decision. He missed the last game, as did OG Anunoby. Kim Burge and Goran Dragic already ruled out here for the Toronto Raptors. If we move it on down here to 7:30, we've got the Chicago Bulls at the New York Knicks. Always a fun game when Chicago and New York meet up on the basketball court. I think Kobe White's already been ruled out here for Chicago. I know it says he's a game time decision, but I don't think he's going to end up playing. Looking at the New York Knicks side, we've got RJ Barrett as a game time decision. Kemba Walker has been ruled out, but it's not due to injury or illness or anything like that. He's just out of the rotation. Tom Thibodeau has replaced him with Alec Burks. Alec Burks now starting for the New York Knicks. So kind of sad to see Cardiac Kemba go out like that. The 8 p.m. game, Oklahoma City Thunder versus the Memphis Grizzlies. If you look over at the OKC side, Josh Giddey missed last game. He is currently a game time decision. Mike Muscala, Derek Favors, all on the injury report. If we look at the other side of this game, we got to keep an eye on Ja Morant, obviously. He would be the most impactful injury news for the Memphis Grizzlies. If he's out, I'm going right back to Desmond Bane, because D. Bane was on one last game. Guy was hitting from downtown. He was racking up plenty of points. So those could be some good looks if you want to go with a Memphis Grizzlies player pending Ja Morant is out. Kyle Anderson also on the injury report. 9 p.m. Detroit Pistons at the Phoenix Suns. Kelly Olynyk continues to sit with that knee injury. For the Phoenix Suns, the big one here is Devin Booker. Booker is already ruled out, as is Nader, Kaminsky, and Saric for Phoenix. So no Devin Booker. Who's going to step up in his place? Will it be Bridges? Will it be Chris Paul? Will it be Jay Crowder? Will it be DeAndre Ayton, who's been very good lately? And finally, the last game on the slate, 10 p.m., San Antonio Spurs versus the Portland Trail Blazers. Nothing real impactful here on the San Antonio side, but obviously for Portland, Damian Lillard already ruled out. They said he's going to miss at least the next 10 games with an abdominal strain. One to also keep an eye out on is Norman Powell, game time decision tonight. So we got to see if Norman Powell plays. He did sit out in the last game. Maybe he gets back in there tonight, but definitely keep an eye on that news. So good morning to everybody. Anybody that I missed, sorry that I missed you. Nick Hunt, what's happening to you? Easy. Good morning to you as well. Good to see a lot of new faces, familiar faces, and people who haven't joined us before. Welcome to the live stream. So yeah, we got to talk about them injuries. Those Houston injuries were a backbreaker. Christian Wood, obviously, he left the game early. I know some folks were really on both his three-point prop and his rebound prop. That did not end up working out. Unfortunately, Christian Wood left the game early. He wasn't the only one, though. Kevin Porter Jr. went out with a thigh contusion. I think he re-entered the game and then ended up going out for good, I want to say. So he fell short. But yeah, I appreciate you folks who are saying you love the content, you love the channel. Thank you. I mean, I try to do this every day, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. Get on here, talk about some player props. Obviously, the focus is NBA right now, but maybe we'll dabble in some other things in the future. So let's go ahead. Let's start getting through some of these player props. All right. Close this out here. We're using Number Fire, obviously, for our fantasy projections, for our single stat player prop projections. Totally free site. I think all you need is a Gmail account to get going on Number Fire, so check them out. And then obviously for our player prop research, props.cash is my number one go-to player prop research tool. They offer NBA right now, NFL right now, NHL's already up and being developed even further. So if you like hockey, you can also check that out on props.cash. You're getting 3 sports for just $19.99 a month. Go ahead and check them out. There's a link down in the description below for props.cash. Let's sign in. And let's start looking at some of these, the high trends, the low trends. And while things are loading up here, you guys go ahead and drop a like on this live stream if you're feeling it so far. And if you're not, well, hopefully by the end of the stream, you will be. So looking at the top player prop trends, what props.cash does really well here is basically shows you who's been hitting at a high clip, who's been hitting at a low clip. So we're going to go ahead, switch this from the current season hit rates to the last 10 games, because I like to get a more recent sample size. Try to figure out, which players are showing good form and which players are showing bad form. So this is an easy way to do that using props.cash. Now, looking at the last 10 games here, we're not getting any players up here with super high hit rates, meaning nobody up there at 70, 80, 90, or 100% hit rates in their last 10 games in terms of point props. But at the top of the list here, we do have DeJounte Murray at 19.5 points. He's representing a 60% hit rate in his last 10 games. He's currently a betting favorite to go under at minus 118. So I don't know if we love that or trust that. Let's look at Saddiq Bey, 12.5 points, also hitting at 60%. He is a minus 126 to go over 12.5 points. So maybe we could look at Saddiq Bey. He's a betting favorite. He's got a decent hit rate. He's taken on a tough team tonight, though, the Phoenix Suns. So this could be one of those situations where Saddiq Bey might struggle. We look at his last 3 games here, 9 points, 6 points, and 2 points. So I'm going to go ahead and shut this down. I'm going to say we're skipping Saddiq Bey. What about Mitchell Robinson at just 5.5 points? Not a guy that you think of in terms of getting buckets or scoring, but Mitchell Robinson, kind of a decent play here at just 5.5 points, right? It seems very easy, very attainable for him. In his last 10 games, he has gone 60%. That's a 6 out of 10 hit rate. In the last 5, though, it gets even better. He's hit 6 or more points in 80% of his games. Is there a little bit of risk playing a guy not known for scoring? Yeah, of course there is. But we got some things working for us. Pretty decent hit rates. He's also a betting favorite to go over 5.5 points at minus 118. He's averaging nearly 7 points per game this season, 6.4 in his last 10. In his last 5, he's averaging 7.2 points. And against the Chicago Bulls, 9 points. 9 points. Let's look at those games real quick. So he dropped 9 on Chicago back on February 1st of last season. February 3rd in a rematch against the Bulls, 8 points against them. And then in his lone game here against Chicago on October 28th, he also puts in 9 points. So he seems to do a decent job scoring against the Bulls historically. So I know he's not a sexy name, not a sexy play, but we must give it some respect here, because at 5.5 points, that's just like 2 or 3 lobs and then maybe like a free throw or two, mix in. So it's very easy to score 6 points in the NBA for most people. Looking at the Chicago defense, so they rank 9th in total points allowed, 13th in field goal percentage allowed, 9th in three-pointers allowed. Not really impactful for a guy like Mitchell Robinson, not a three-point shooter. But nonetheless, 23rd in three-point field goal percentage allowed, 21st in free throws allowed. So if we get anybody from the Knicks on a free throw prop, maybe we target this Chicago Bulls defense and take the over on like a Julius Randle over free throw makes. And then they rank just 19th in center defense. Looking at the total of this game, 209.5 implied points. The Chicago Bulls on the road are a 2-point favorite. So this game, not a super sky-high total, but it does look like it's going to stay close and competitive, so we don't really have to worry about any type of blowout happening here. He gets about 24 minutes per game, at least that's in his last 5 games. In his previous games against Chicago, almost 29 minutes per game, so he sees a little bit more run. Going down here, looking at the field goal attempts, about 4, maybe sometimes up to 5 or 6 field goal attempts per game. He plays really close to the basket, so his field goal percentages are typically pretty darn high. So, if he's going to attempt any shots around the hoop, more than likely, most of the time they go in. And as I mentioned, not going to take any threes for you is Mitchell Robinson. So let's go ahead and get you a projection on his points. And again, for that, we are using Numberfire to pull these up. Totally free site for you. Mitchell Robinson sitting at 6.5 projected points, putting him 1 whole point over 5.5 points. So, not a lot of high hit rate guys for the points props today. So maybe we take one that's kind of off the radar that, isn't a big name, isn't a household name. Mitchell Robinson kind of fits the bill. He's historically done very well against Chicago. He's projected to go over his points prop at 5.5, and his hit rates in his last 5 games representing an 80% hit rate. So I'm just throwing it out there, giving you something different to think about. We don't talk a lot about Mitchell Robinson, obviously, so this could be a perfect opportunity for us to go ahead and target him here. All right, let's look at some other ones here. Zach LaVine at 24.5 points. I think we already mentioned Kobe White, probably not going to play tonight, so maybe you could go with some Zach LaVine. At 24.5 points, he's got a 60% hit rate. He's currently a minus 118 to go under 24.5. What makes this prop interesting, though, is that over on PrizePicks, he is not 24.5 points. You're actually getting a discount on Zach LaVine. He's at 23.5 points. So we got a 1-point difference between PrizePicks and most of the sports books out there. So let's take a look at Zach LaVine. Maybe we go ahead and we snatch up this value play. And for that, we just type in his name here and we could pull him right up. We're going to switch this from 24.5 to 23.5 where he's at on PrizePicks, which doesn't really change his hit rate at all. But at 24.5 points, at 24.5 or 23.5. He's a 60% hit rate in his last 10 games. Looking at his season averages, 25.3 points per game, 24.9 in the last 10. Now his numbers have fallen off, dropping down to 21.4 points per game in his last 5. Maybe that has a little bit to do with Kobe White returning to the rotation. Again, if Kobe White is truly indeed ruled out for tonight, then maybe Zach LaVine gets back up to those 24, 25 point per game averages. Now let's look at his previous matchups versus the Knicks. We're going to throw these 2 games out and just look at the totals from this season. 25 points against the Knicks in this first matchup back on October 28th. In the rematch back on 11/21, which was a couple weeks ago, he drops 21 points against the Knicks. So he's got 1 game where he's gone over 23.5, 1 game where he's gone under. So he's split at a 50% hit rate in 2 previous matchups against the Knicks. Looking at their defense, not a very tough defense overall. Most of their ranks here, kind of middle of the road, kind of an average defense. It's not a team that we're looking to fade players against, so to speak. We can actually fire Zach LaVine up with confidence here. They rank 16th in guarding opposing shooting guards. So Not a very difficult matchup overall for Zach LaVine. Going down here, looking at his minutes are down in the last 5 games, 32.6. So maybe that can help explain why his scoring averages are down a little bit. Maybe the factor of Kobe White, maybe the factor of them, blowing teams out. His minutes are down for whatever reason, though, in his last 5 games. But against the Knicks, 35.6 minutes. So maybe we see him pop back up to around the 35, 36 minute mark. Going down here, looking at his field goal attempts, those are also down in his last 5 games. 19 field goal attempts per game over the course of the season, 20 in his last 10, down to around 17 to 18 per game in his last 5 games. So maybe Zach LaVine ends up getting more minutes, takes more shots. He did average over 18 shots against the Knicks. Also looking at his three-point attempts, those are way down as well. He was at 13, 12 at one point. Coming all the way down here to those last 5 games, he's at 7, 9, 7, 10, and 7, averaging about 8 3-point field goal attempts per game. And then you could kind of get a quick idea of how his free throw attempts and makes look per game. So Zach LaVine, kind of an interesting play tonight. We're going to have to see how it goes here with that 1 out of 2 hit rate. Nonetheless, let's get you a projection. He is projected at the moment for 22.1 points. So even with the 1 point discount that we're getting on PrizePicks, getting him at 23.5 instead of 24.5, he still looks like he is projected to come up just a little bit short, even at 23.5 points. But NumberFire is just one site that you can use. Go out and check some of the other player prop projection sites. Another one that I like is RotoWire. They offer some free player prop projections. And there's another one, Betting Pros. Check out Betting Pros. That's another one that you can check out that is completely free. So there you go. Zach LaVine, another name to potentially consider going over on. Although the research that we just did, not looking super sexy here. The other one, DeMar DeRozan, his teammate, Chicago Bulls. He's at 24.5 on your favorite sports book, but 23.5 on PrizePicks. We're getting a discount on him as well. Now, in his last 3 games, he has gone over just 2 times at 28 points. Came really close against Orlando with 23. 17 and 18 in his 4th and 5th game back in the game log. So it's been kind of interesting to try and figure out these Chicago Bulls. Maybe end up going with this guy here, Lonzo Ball, at just 12.5 points. He's gone over 12.5 in 3 out of 5 games. It's a 60% hit rate. Again, if Kobe White's out, we should see more of these guys. Lonzo, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan out there on the court. So let's go look at some low hit rate guys. I'm not seeing a lot of point props that I'm absolutely loving at the moment. For the low hit rates, we got Anthony Simons up there, but that's because he has now entered the starting lineup, and normally he is not a starter, and his line has been bumped all the way up to 18.5. So don't pay too much attention to the hit rate here at 18.5 points. I wouldn't get, too crazy in terms of taking any unders on Anthony Simons. The whole situation, the dynamic is different. Obviously, with Dame out of the lineup, Simons will play a lot more. Isaiah Stewart at 8.5 points has only covered this prop in 20% of his last 10 games. That's a 2 out of 10 type of hit rate. He is currently a minus 118 to go under. Nikola Vucevic at 16.5 points, covering that prop in just 20% of his games. You're not really seeing any action on Vuce at the moment. He'll be facing the New York Knicks. He's kind of still working his way back. He sat out for a little while. I think he had COVID, I want to say. So he missed quite a few games here between November 10th and November 24th. But he's like, 4 games back in now? He plays with all of these ball-hungry guards here. The Lonzo Balls, the DeMar DeRozans, the Zach LaVine. So sometimes I think it could be a little difficult for Nikola Vucevic to get his hands on the basketball. He did have 30 points against a weak Charlotte interior. I just don't know if I want to play him against the Knicks tonight. But there you go. Points are looking kind of ugly, I'll be honest with you. Not seeing a whole lot that I love here. So let's go ahead and switch it up. We will look at some rebounds. Maybe we'll have some better success, some better luck on some of these rebound props. Good morning to everybody who's just now getting here. What's up to you, Emmanuel? Thank you for joining us. Appreciate you guys for being here. Craig is back up in the building. Bad night for Craig last night, but we're gonna get you. We're gonna get you right, Craig. Hopefully, it's a small slate. So typically on small slates, folks, I recommend that you kind of limit your exposure in terms of how much money you have out there. There's just less options, less ways for us to go. So I wouldn't go crazy on a small slate like tonight at just 5 games. So okie doke. Let's look at the rebound props here. Starting things off with Mikal. Am I saying it right yet? Bridges. Phoenix Suns, 3.5 rebounds. He is currently not up on the PrizePicks board because at 3.5 rebounds, he has hit 80% of the time. That's 8 out of 10 games, and he's currently a minus 142 to go over 3.5 boards. Another guy worth talking about, Killian Hayes. Low-key has been smashing 3.5 rebounds for the Detroit Pistons. He has a 70% hit rate, but for whatever reason is a big old minus 148 to go under. DeMar DeRozan at 4.5 boards, 70% hit rate. He is a betting favorite to go over at minus 128. Do we have DeMar DeRozan in the building today? We do, taking on the New York Knicks. Let's look at his last 5 games. The last 10 looks pretty good at a 70% hit rate. His last 5 games also looking good at an 80% hit rate. He's covered in 4 straight games: Houston, Orlando, Miami, and Charlotte. He went over 4.5 rebounds in each one of those. So let's go ahead and talk about DeMar DeRozan here. And for that, we just switch the category up if we want. On props.cash, we can go ahead and filter out the games if we want. We'll remove Zach LaVine's name so we see all the player props for rebounds from this game. And DeMar DeRozan right here at 4.5 boards. So we talked about his hit rate over the last 10 being 70%. Let's look at the averages. 5.2 rebounds per game this season, 4.9 rebounds per game in the last 10, 4.6 rebounds per game in the last 5, and 4.5 rebounds per game versus this New York Knicks team, which is his opponent tonight. Now, if we look at the 2 games against New York this season, the first game, 3 rebounds for DeMar DeRozan, did not get the job done at 4.5. But he comes back on November 21st, a more recent sample here, pulling in 6 boards. This number obviously is good for the over at 4.5. So we go back here, we look at some of these matchup stats here for the New York Knicks against opposing teams and the rebounds. We've got the total rebounds allowed here, 17th. They rank 17th in total rebounds allowed. They rank 23rd in offensive rebounds allowed, 17th in defensive rebounds allowed, and shooting guard defense, which really probably doesn't matter a whole lot when we're talking rebounds, they rank 16th. Looking at the game totals, 209.5. Again, just a 2-point spread on this one. DeRozan's minutes pretty steady at around 33 to 35 minutes per game. Over 36 minutes per game against the Knicks in some of those previous matchups there. And then this gives you a little breakout here of how DeMar DeRozan rebounds the basketball, giving you a look at his total rebounds in red and his offensive rebounds in green. So you kind of get an idea of what to expect. So let's swing it on over here back to Number Fire. They do offer projections for rebounds. We can pull DeMar DeRozan up and see if his chances of going over 4.5 rebounds yet again are good. And according to the projections on Number Fire, if you believe in such things, they have him at 4.7 boards, which puts him over 4.5 rebounds by 0.2. So that lean would be probably toward the over, as 4.7 is a lot closer to 5 than it is 4. So that would be the direction I would lean. The hit rates seem to indicate that. The projections look good. The historical matchups look pretty good here versus the New York Knicks. So I don't mind some DeMar DeRozan over 4.5 boards. I think it's a decent play. So let's go back. Let's look for some other rebound props here. Cade Cunningham is all the way up to 6.5 rebounds. Man, I remember it was like yesterday he was sitting at around 4.5 rebounds, 5.5 rebounds. His number has been beefed up all the way to 6.5 rebounds. If we look at his recent game logs, you'll kind of see why, because he has been on the glass quite often here. Against Milwaukee, pulls in 8. 6 against the Clippers, 11 against the Lakers, 7 against the Portland Trailblazers. Really, the only game he fell short was against the Miami Heat. I think he got in foul trouble that game. But yeah, Cade Cunningham's been a guy who has been on the glass quite a bit. But at 6.5 boards, they've got him as a minus 142. So the betting public, the folks out there with money in their hand, they're putting their money on the under at 6.5 rebounds against this tough Phoenix Suns squad. So I'll probably be fading Cade Cunningham for that reason. Another Chicago Bull makes the high rebound hit list. That is Zach LaVine, who's representing a 60% hit rate. He is also a betting favorite at minus 128. We won't go too far into this one, but we can open up his game logs here. Look at his boards. 2.2447. Probably not liking this one as much as DeMar DeRozan. You can see in his last 5 games, he's been on this struggle bus in terms of going over 4.5 boards. So that'll probably be a fade for me, one that I'll look to avoid. So we'll go down here and look at some of the low hit rate players. We got Cam Johnson at 4.5 rebounds for the Phoenix Suns. You're not going to find him up on the PrizePicks board. Just a 20% cover rate at 4.5 rebounds. We got Jusuf Nurkic at 11.5 rebounds today. His hit rate at 11.5 boards is actually pretty low, surprisingly, 30%. And if you look at his last 5 games, he's only covered 11.5 rebounds once with 17 boards. Otherwise, he has fallen short of 11.5 in 4 out of the last 5 games. So pretty low hit rate on him. Let's dig into this one, put it under the microscope, so to speak, and take a look at Jusuf Nurkic here for the Portland Trail Blazers. You think of him as being, typically a pretty strong rebounder, but maybe this 11.5 rebound number is a bit too high. We'll just have to look at the matchup here against the Spurs and see if he can be held in check or not. So at 11.5, he's currently a betting favorite to go under at -120. If we look at the season averages, 10.7 rebounds, 9.8 rebounds per game in his last 10, 9.2 in his last 5. So we're seeing his season averages, his last 10 and his last 5, all starting to trend down for Jusuf Nurkic. So really only 3 games in his last 10 has he gone over just a 30% hit rate. The last 5, we could take a look at that view for you real quick. 1 out of 5, as we talked about, just to give you a visual element there. Scrolling down, looking at the matchup, though, it does look like a pretty decent, pretty friendly matchup for rebounders here against the San Antonio Spurs. They rank just 24th in rebounds allowed. So that is a plus rebound situation for Nurkic and the rest of the Portland Trail Blazers. 16th in offensive rebounds allowed and 26th in defensive rebounds allowed, which is the more important stat out of offensive and defensive. Most rebounds are obviously defensive rebounds. They give up nearly 37 of those per game. This game has a total of 216 points. Portland at home, 5-point favorites. So it doesn't look like a blowout on paper. Of course, we mentioned Portland's going to be without Damian Lillard. Norman Powell, he's kind of iffy. We're not sure about him yet. Game time decision. Looking at Nurkic's minutes, they are up in his last 5 games. But despite the bump, the increase in minutes, the rebounds don't really seem to be following. So kind of an interesting lack of correlation there. And then you get an idea of his offensive and defensive rebounds and how things are kind of shaken out here for big Jusuf Nurkic. Let's go ahead and pull up a projection here for Nurk, and then we'll move on. They've got him projected for 11.9 boards. If we round up, call it 12 boards, that does put him over 11.5. But again, guys, this is just one source, Number Fire. You're going to want to go out there, cross-reference on some different sites, kind of get an idea what a, we'll call it a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not coming to me. It's just not going to come to me, is it? An aggregated rebound projection. There it is for Jusuf Nurkic. So you got like 3 different sites you can look at to kind of aggregate his rebound totals, right? Number Fire, RotoWire, and Betting Pros. Kind of look at all 3 of those and come up with what you think is going to happen here. He's going to be matched up against Jakob Poeltl, who is projected for 9 rebounds and has been rebounding the basketball pretty well himself here. 9, 10, 12, and 11. He's got a tough task, though, going against Nurkic tonight. So there you go. I think that's enough about some rebounds. Some other guys, though, Robert Covington at 4.5 boards, 30% hit rate. Keldon Johnson at 6.5 boards, 30% hit rate. And Lonzo Ball at 5.5 rebounds, 30% hit rate on him as well. So there's some of your rebound props to consider, to look at. We're going to move it on over and look at some of the dime droppers. And I saw some early value here, at least what I thought was some early value. The first guy that kind of caught my eye was Lonzo Ball at 4.5 assists. Why is that? Can you guys maybe answer why Lonzo Ball is at just 4.5 assists? I don't know. Maybe I'm giving him too much credit. Maybe I'm thinking that number is just entirely too low, and I could be wrong. I could be flawed in that. But if you're telling me Kobe White doesn't play and Lonzo Ball is going to get maybe a couple extra minutes, a few more minutes, 4.5 assists? Seems a little off. Seems a little funky to me. So let's start with that one, okay? Because he's got a last 10 games, 70% hit rate, right? Minus 144 to go over 4.5 assists. Totally doable here, I think, for Lonzo Ball. Let's go ahead and look at him on props.cash at 4.5 assists in his last 10 games, 70% hit rate. If we look at his season averages, 4.8 assists. Maybe I thought his assists per game were a little higher than that. I don't know. But his averages say 4.8 over the season, 5.3 in his last 10, 5.4 in his last 5. And against the Knicks, 4.5, exactly 4.5 assists per game. Looking at what he's done this season in 2 matchups against the Knicks, he goes for 4 assists in the first matchup on October 28th, which falls just shy, loses to the Hook, and then he goes for 5 assists in New York at the rematch, I should say, against the New York Knicks. So he's went over once and went under once, a 50% hit rate. He has split those 2 games in terms of going over 4.5 assists. I don't know. I just saw this number and I was like, man, that seems just entirely too low for Lonzo Ball. But like I said, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm off kilter on that. The New York defense, though, 18th in assists allowed. So they're giving up over 24 assists per game, right? Not mad at that. This is not a fade type of matchup here, according to what we see on paper. And then they rank 23rd in point guard defense. So, yeah, Lonzo Ball at 4.5 dimes looked kind of low to me. Another one that kind of looked low to me was his teammate, Zach LaVine, getting him at 3.5 assists. And in his last 5 games, he's gone over in 3 out of those last 5. One of these dudes are going to go over assists. I don't know. They just seem too low to me for whatever reason. DeMar DeRozan's also up on the board. He's only gone over 4.5 assists in 2 out of 5. So for me, it's probably going to be either Lonzo or LaVine. Let's go ahead and look at the projections for both guys and see maybe which one is getting the better edge here. So we got Lonzo Ball projected at 5 dimes, which puts him over 4.5 by half an assist, right? And then we've got Zach LaVine. He's going to be at 3.8 assists, which barely suggests we should be looking at the over at 3.5. So probably going to give the nod here to Lonzo at 4.5. I think he takes on typically more of that pass first type of role here for Chicago. Obviously, DeRozan, LaVine, more of those scoring options, those scoring guards for the Bulls. So I think that's enough. That's enough about those Chicago Bulls and their assists. They just seemed entirely too low, just going off the top of my head at first glance. But you guys let me know what you think in the chat about these Bulls assists. Who do you think ends up being the one that goes over? Is it LaVine? Is it Ball? Or does DeMar DeRozan come out of nowhere and drop 5 or more assists? Kind of an interesting situation there. Other high hit rate assisters. Jeremy Grant, 2.5 assists, 60% hit rate, yet he is a betting favorite, a major betting favorite to go under at minus 150. Derek White of the San Antonio Spurs, 4.5 assists. Not seeing him up on the PrizePicks board at the moment. But at 4.5 assists, 60% hit rate, he is also a pretty big favorite to go over at minus 140. One other guy that I wanted to talk about who's up on the PrizePicks board, who was a great source of consistency at going over his assist prop, is Cade Cunningham. And that has ended for Cade Cunningham. It seems to be that has come to an end. His last 2 games, just 2 assists against the Lakers, 1 against Portland. I was clicking the over on this guy on assists and rebounds almost every single night. Now, I don't know what to think anymore. It seems like his teammate, Killian Hayes, has been poaching or vulturing some of his assists. So while we look at the last 10 games here on Cade Cunningham and it says at 4.5 assists, he's got a 70% hit rate, I just don't know if I'm on board with this. I'm kind of taking a wait and see approach with Cade Cunningham to see if these assists come back around for him. But yeah, I don't know what to make of this, because he has not been dropping dimes like he was even just 3, 4, and 5 games ago. So be careful of Cade Cunningham. That would probably be one I would say to avoid. And hopefully you guys join me in taking the wait and see approach and seeing what's going on with Cade Cunningham. The projection for him tonight is 5 assists. I don't know if I believe it. I just don't know if I'm buying it, guys. So be careful with Cade Cunningham and those assists. If anything, maybe you go with his rebounds tonight. Let's go down to the low hit rates for assists. Another one to be careful of, obviously, his role, his task, we'll call it, for the Portland Trailblazers has changed. We talked about Lillard being out of the lineup. Anthony Simons at 3.5 assists, just a 20% hit rate, but this dude will be starting, so do not take the under. Because in the last game, without Damian Lillard against the Detroit Pistons, he had 5 assists. So this could be another potential trap. You can't just go and look at these hit rates and think, oh, it's a lock because it's a 20% hit rate, meaning he's definitely going to go under. No. That's not how this works. You have to dig a little bit deeper here. You have to consider this guy's role on this team has changed now with their best player out of the lineup. The projection for him is 3.2 assists. So they've got him projected slightly under 3.5. Like, could he go under 3.5? Of course, it could happen. But I'm just saying, be careful. Don't go too heavy on the under on 3.5 assists. He had five dimes in his last game. Looking at some other trends here, Yusuf Nurkic, 3.5 assists, just a 20% hit rate. He is a betting favorite at minus 134 to go under 3.5 yet again. Keldon Johnson, 2.5 dimes. You're getting him at a 30% hit rate. Also at a minus 164 to go under. There's a reason why PrizePicks is not putting these low hit rate, big betting favorites to go under up on the board because it looks like easy money. CJ McCollum at 5.5 assists, just a 40% hit rate for him. He is currently a minus 118. So what do we think about McCollum at 5.5 assists without Damian Lillard? I don't know what to think. The easy low-hanging fruit answer would be that no Damian Lillard in the lineup. Somebody's going to have to step up and be that primary scorer. The obvious choice would be CJ McCollum. But just because he is the top scorer, the guy who's taken the most shots on the team, does that mean that his assists fall off? Well, if we look at the last game here against the Detroit Pistons, the answer of that is no, his assists did not fall off. In fact, he covered 5.5 assists, dropping 6. So he barely got over the hump. And in his last 5 games, if we look at those, he's gone over 5.5 assists in 3 out of 5. So that's a 60% hit rate. So this is another one where the dynamic on the team has changed. No Norman Powell potentially, no Damian Lillard. I just don't know. So when I don't feel good about it, don't feel super certain or comfortable, I usually fade it. Now, Chris Paul, this one's another interesting one. He has been at 8.5 assists over the last couple of days. For some reason today, they decided we're going to crank the knob up 2 clicks and put him up at 10.5 dimes. I'm not saying that the point god can't do it, because we know Chris Paul can do it. 12 dimes against Cleveland, 11 against Golden State. But is this game going to stay close enough for Chris Paul to drop that many assists? And with no Devin Booker in the lineup, will Chris Paul's assists take a hit? Will he take on more of the scoring role here for the Phoenix Suns? That's a definite question worth considering, I would say. Let's go ahead and plug in his name and see what his projection is for his assists. I got him at 10.3, putting him slightly under the 10.5 mark. So, I mean, maybe you lean toward the under on Chris Paul. It's a risky proposition for sure. Alrighty, we've talked enough about assist. Now we're going to talk about some 3-point makes. We've got, 7 options up on the board right now. So not a lot to pick from, not a lot to choose from. Let's go ahead, though, and take a look. Maybe they'll add more throughout the night. 3-point makes here on props.cash. Who do we have up at the top? We got Keldon Johnson at just a half of a 3-point make. 80% hit rate. He is a minus 220 to go over. We're not going to see him up on the board. Lonzo Ball at 2.5 3-point makes, a 70% hit rate, minus 156 to go over. We will also not see him up on the board. Saddiq Bey at 1.5 3-point makes, a 60% hit rate, minus 172 for the over. Noticing a trend here, we're not going to see him up on the board either. PrizePicks does a great job of limiting which high hit rate, low hit rate 3-point props they put up on the board. And for that reason, I've been playing less 3-point props lately. Now, maybe one that's interesting because his role on the team has changed. He's now in the starting lineup, replacing Kemba Walker. Alec Burks at 2.5 3-point makes, sitting at a 60% hit rate and a big old minus 146 to go over 2.5 threes. So let's talk about him real quick. because in the last 2 games, he has sunk 4 3 balls in both of the last 2 games. So he's gone over 2.5 by 2 3-pointers, not just 3, but he's gone for 4 3-point makes in his last 2 games. So let's go ahead and talk about Burks real quick here. 3-point field goals made. We'll punch it all in here into props.cash, get it all dialed in for you. And over his last 10 games, 60% hit rate. Now, if we look at the last 5, it's kind of ugly, right? He's got 3 games in a row here where he only makes 1, but then he starts getting more playing time, starts getting into that starting lineup, and he's made 4 in 2 of his last 2 games. So things are looking a little bit better here for Alec Burks. For me, I got to evaluate this matchup a little bit closer. And thankfully, props.cash makes it easy to do that. Against the Chicago Bulls defense, they rank 23rd in 3-point field goal percentage allowed. So that means the threes that are going up against the Chicago Bulls are going in at a pretty high clip, a pretty high conversion rate, almost 36%, in fact. They do limit the amount of threes that go up against them, though. Total threes, they rank 9th, a top 10 stingy defense in terms of total threes against. So 11.6 threes made against them per game. And then they rank number 2 in shooting guard defense. His minutes in the last 2 games have been outstanding. Look at this. Alec Burks, 39 minutes against Atlanta, 39 minutes against Brooklyn. A definite uptick in his minutes in the last 2 games versus his previous, 8 games or however many games this is here. He is getting a ton more minutes. Let's go look at his field goal attempts and 3-point field goal attempts. His 3-point attempts look very strong too in his last 2 games. Not only are his minutes up, but his 3-point attempts are also up. 7 in his game against Atlanta, goes 4 for 7 there. 10 attempts. So if he's going to get that kind of volume again tonight, I got to maybe take a risk, take a shot here at going over on his 2.5 3-point make prop. He went 4 for 10 against the Brooklyn Nets. So there you go. Alec Burks could be a good way to go here. Maybe he's the favorite play of all of the 3-point props currently up on the PrizePicks board. Let's go look at some of these other trends, though, real quick here on props.cash. We talked Alec Burks. There's Robert Covington at 1.5 threes. He's not a guy who gets a ton of volume. He's going to have to be very, very efficient with the threes that he takes. This looks way too risky for me. In his last 10 games, just a 50% hit rate. Yes, there's some injuries for Portland. Maybe he gets 1 or 2 extra shots, but I don't know that I'm trusting him. CJ McCollum, I like him better at 2.5 3-point makes, but he's a guy that maybe you could consider here at 3.5. But over the last 10 games at 3.5, just a 50% hit rate. So maybe this is a little bit risky as well for CJ McCollum. If you want to check out some 3-point projections, Betting Pros, bettingpros.com. They've got an NBA player cheat sheet, totally free for you to access. Go check them out. They will help you with your 3-point prop projection. So there you go, guys. That's what we have available up on the PrizePicks board so far this morning. What do you guys think of some of these picks? I'd like to get your opinions, see what you're like and what you're not. But let's turn it over to the chat here. I will start taking your questions now. Why don't we do that? Instead of me scrolling all the way back up to the top, start leaving your questions right now. Leroy's already mentioning Mikal Bridges at 3.5 rebounds. I have to agree with you, Leroy. Obviously, Bridges is not up on the PrizePicks board for good reason. He's got a very high hit rate at that 3.5 rebound number. Pulling up a projection here for Bridges. Yeah, he's projected for 4.6 boards. I mean, dude's been absolutely covering at 3.5 boards. What's up to Josh Not Drake? That's a name I don't think I've seen in here before. So if you're new, good to see you. Oh, Remy left a super chat for me. Sorry about that, Remy. Just now seeing that, but better late than never, right? Thank you, Remy, for the super chat. Is this just a super chat just because, I guess? Not even a message or anything to go along with that, Remy? I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. Those super chats mean a lot, and they help go a long way to supporting what I do here on YouTube. Oh, Josh is new. He says it's his first time here. Well, welcome, Josh. I'm glad that you decided to join us. Definitely make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet. Let's see what other props you guys are liking, though. So we mentioned Bridges over 3.5 rebounds. Alec Burks' fantasy score at 31. Yeah, that kind of seems pretty friendly, right? If Alec Burks is going to keep doing what he's been doing in the last couple of games here, 31 fantasy points might be way too low. 38.9 against Atlanta on November 27th. Of course, we mentioned 39 minutes, so he's getting about 1 fantasy point per game in that game. And then 46.5 fantasy points against the Brooklyn Nets. Had a much better shooting game there, shot a lot more threes as we already looked at. So yeah, Alec Burks at 31 fantasy points. That could absolutely be a move here if he continues to get 39 plus minutes per game. They've got him projected at 29, but again, double check on some other sites. RotoWire offers some FanDuel projections. Of course, FanDuel, same scoring system as PrizePicks in terms of fantasy points. So make sure that you're using FanDuel projections when you're looking at these different free projection sites like NumberFire. So yeah, Alec Burks, though, at 31 seems entirely too low. If he gets 38, 39 minutes again tonight, I just don't see how he can't go over 31. So I don't mind that whatsoever. Good call out, Josh. Says he's trying to figure out Burks. Well, Burks is just getting a ton of minutes, guys. Ton of minutes and a ton of shots. It's like they've given him the green light. Go in there, do for us what Kemba Walker wasn't, which is get buckets. And Alec Burks seems to be answering the call. MF June says, I've been taking and hitting on whoever the board with 0.5, whoever's on the board for a half of a 3-point make. So who do we have up on the board right now? Nobody at the moment at 0.5 3-point makes. Michael says, Isaiah Stewart under points or rebounds. So you're wanting to go under on beef stew tonight, huh? And you're not sure which way you should go, his points or his rebounds. Well, his points are sitting at 8 right now. He did have 15 against Portland in the last game, but the previous 4, of course, one of those games, he left the game early, which was against this Lakers team. That's when he got punched in the face by LeBron James. But yeah, just a 1 out of 5 hit rate, so 20% cover rate at 8 points. Let's pull up a projection here for Mr. Isaiah Stewart. You're wanting to go under on him? Well, his points are projected for 9.1 tonight, and his rebounds are projected for 9.2. Obviously, these are just projections. They are not locks, the word that we, the forbidden word, the word that we refrain from using as much as possible. His rebounds are at 8.5. So they like him to go over both his points and his rebound props tonight. It looks like he's got a better shot at going over rebounds. So if you're wanting to go under on either of the two, maybe you lean toward going under on his points, as the lower hit rate in the last 5 games are on his points, not his rebounds. What else are we talking about here this morning, folks? Leroy says Sadiq Bey over 1.5 3-pointers. I like. Okay, look, there's nothing wrong with liking that. But what I will say is, let's not get desperate on a short slate. We don't have to play these guys. So unless you really, really love it, it doesn't sound like you really, really love it. It sounds like you like it. I don't know. Just be careful. Be careful. Todd says, the info I get from CJ is outstanding. My wins on PrizePicks are mostly due to these videos. I do some research, but not a lot. Thank you. Well, hopefully with my research and your research, our efforts combined, we get you to more wins on PrizePicks. So I appreciate that kind comment there, Todd. Really glad to hear that I'm helping people like you. Says he likes DeJounte Murray over on points. Dude is the franchise. I have to agree with you, Said. I think that Murray is absolutely the franchise. If you play on PrizePicks, though, I think you might want to consider possibly going with his fantasy points instead of his real-life points. His real-life points, though, 3 out of the last 5 games, he has gone over 19.5 points. So I can't be too mad at you liking this particular prop. He is projected for 18.1, though. 18.1. His fantasy points are sitting at 42.9. So, Said, I don't know if you play on PrizePicks or not. Maybe you're playing your favorite prop plays over on a different site. Ain't nothing wrong with that. But if you're playing on PrizePicks, I would say we consider taking the over on Murray's fantasy points, because he's kind of a do-it-all Swiss Army knife. And he has gone over 42.5 fantasy points by quite a lot in most of these games. 4 times out of his last 5 games. In 3 of those, he went for 57, 51, and 60. He's also projected to go slightly over 42.5 fantasy points. I think I really like this matchup against Portland. I am not afraid of the Portland backcourt, especially without Damian Lillard. So I'm probably going straight back right here to Murray. Yep, Boston's liking Burks over fantasy point or over on points. We talked about Burks over on fantasy points on PrizePicks. We like that. We also like Alec Burks over on his real life points. Shoot, I didn't even mind what I saw when I looked at Alec Burks over 2.5 threes. He made 4 in both of the games where he played 39 plus minutes. So yeah, digging that. Definitely digging that. Boston is liking Burks over points. Alec, you're liking Jakob Poeltl under assists. Whew. Well, that is not a name that I expected to see here, at least not in terms of assist. I'm not sure what his assist line is at today, but let me go ahead and pull up his name here. He is projected for 2.4 dimes. Is he at like 2.5 out on your favorite sports book? If so, then maybe, according to these projections, we lean toward the under. So, yeah, Alec, if you want to play some Jakob Poeltl under assist, you have my blessing. Wes says, I think Chris Paul is an easy over on points, and Murray and White as well. So he's liking Chris Paul over on real life points. He's liking DeJounte Murray over on points, and he's liking Derek White over on points. All right. Contract Killer says, a lot of CP3 assists come from Ayton. So those two are correlated closely, according to Contract Killer, meaning Chris Paul's going to have a lot of assists. It's probably going to benefit DeAndre Ayton. Now, Ayton, at one point in time here recently, was at 14.5 points. Shoot, I think we even saw him at 13.5 points once here on PrizePicks recently. He's all the way up to 17.5 now. And for me, 17.5 gets a little bit dicey. I don't know that I like playing him up at that number. There are games where he just totally disappears, it seems like, on offense. No Devin Booker tonight, though. 17.9 is his projected points, putting him right up there at 18 points. Maybe you take a shot. I wouldn't go too heavy on this one, though. He's going to be facing off against Isaiah Stewart. Are we afraid of Isaiah Stewart? Nah, not afraid, but I'm just saying this could be one of those games where it turns into more of a guard oriented type of game script. So Remy says, how do you feel about Vucevic over 10.5 boards? His floor is 9 to 10 rebounds and has a plus matchup. Nikola Vucevic rebounds. We looked at the hit rates earlier on rebounds. Vucevic kind of had a sketchy hit rate, we'll call it. 10.5 boards. So since coming back into the lineup on November 24th here against Houston, he had 13. Of course, we know we can rebound against Houston. Not too bad. Against the Magic, had just 8 boards there. 13 against Miami and 14 against Charlotte. So overall, I'm going to leave this November 10th game against Dallas out just because, there was a big gap here in terms of playing time and in the games that he played. But in his last 4 games, 3 out of 4, right? So a 75% hit rate, going over 10.5 rebounds. You say it's a plus matchup against the New York Knicks. Let's see if that's true. We can do that by looking at props.cash. I'm here looking for Nurkic, but we want Vucevic. Vucevic against the Knicks. He's played them once this season, had just 8 rebounds against them. Now, going back to last season, some of these games here might have been when he was still with the Magic, but nonetheless, he absolutely owned the glass against the New York Knicks. 14, 16, 16, and 18. Now, these games, I'm not sure, again, which team he was on, whether it be Orlando or Chicago, but yeah, I mean, he was killing the Knicks. Looking at the matchup here, 17th. The Knicks are 17th in total rebounds allowed, 23rd in offensive, 17 in defensive rebounds allowed. So, yeah, I'm not mad at the matchup whatsoever. I think you could take a shot on Nikola Vucevic over 10.5 boards. Have we pulled up a projection yet for Vucevic? I don't think we have. Let's do it now. They got him at 11.3 boards, so check a couple other sources, a couple other sites, but historically, yes, he has had the New York Knicks number when it comes to rebounding the basketball. So far, the projections look pretty good, but, a couple knocks against him is he didn't get it done in the previous matchup from this season against the New York Knicks. And he plays with a team full of good athletic guards and stuff. So Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan will be on the glass. Obviously, Lonzo Ball gets on the glass too. So wouldn't go crazy with it, but I don't hate it. I don't hate it. What else? Oh, Remy says, I guess it didn't post my question. Yeah, that super chat you sent, I thought you were just being nice, man, just making it rain this morning. But hopefully I answered that question for you, Remy. DFS Whispers, what's up to you, my friend? What's up, CJ? Love the content per usual. Should be a fun slate. You think it's gonna be a fun slate? I don't know, man. I'm not saying like it's gonna be fun or not fun, but it seems a little sketchy. Savan Meyer, Berg, am I saying your name right? Burks could be a play. Yes, absolutely. I think Burks is a play that we've identified this morning. Emmanuel says, hit the like, guys. Listen to Emmanuel. He is a wise person. It sounds like he is on the right track. Drop a like on this if you're getting any value out of it. I appreciate you guys. We just keep crushing, by the way, 100 plus likes on all these streams. You guys are letting me know that you're liking the content by clicking the like button, and I'll keep making it as long as you like it. So Josh says, I've been watching the replays, though, because I missed the lives. That's all right, Josh. No worries. You're here today, and that's all that matters. Sayday says, what do you think about Chris Paul under 39.9 fantasy points? Is he really at 39.9 fantasy points? That is an interesting number for him to be at. Is he really? Oh, he's at 39.5. 51 in his last game, which is against a tough Golden State team. 36, 34, 34, 19. Here's what I'll say. I mentioned it in previous shows. I'm going to mention it again. Go to Google, type in Roto Grinders space Court IQ, all one word. Roto Grinders Court IQ. The reason I mention that is you can go pull up the Phoenix Suns team. You could go take Devin Booker, click off, remove him from the starting lineup for Phoenix, and then you could run a report, and it'll give you a result that will show how the Phoenix Suns do without Devin Booker on the floor. Does Chris Paul benefit? Does Bridges benefit? Does DeAndre Ayton benefit? Somebody most assuredly does benefit, but Court IQ helps you identify who exactly. They also offer fantasy points, showing you who gets the most fantasy points, who benefits the most when a guy like Devin Booker, a major piece, a major player, is out of the lineup. So check out Roto Grinders Court IQ to answer some of those what if this player's out of the lineup questions. You can get some real hard facts, real hard evidence. So I don't know in terms of who benefits the most for the Phoenix Suns with Devin Booker out of the lineup. It is just guessing, but yeah, check out Court IQ. And I think that will be a very helpful source for you. But let's go ahead and take a look at Chris Paul's projected fantasy points. He's at 41. So they actually like him to go over 39.5 fantasy points. So hopefully that helps you out. Go definitely check out Court IQ, though. Helps you out with some of those what if scenarios. Reggie likes Anthony Simons over assist. Yeah, he had 5 assists. We talked about him briefly with Damian Lillard out of the lineup in the last game versus Detroit. So definitely could go back to some Simons over assist if you think that he gets a ton of playing time. I don't mind that one whatsoever. Anthony says he likes DeAndre Ayton's rebounds versus Detroit. Now, I mentioned kind of being maybe a little hesitant with going over on DeAndre Ayton at 17.5 points. Maybe the better move if you want to play some Ayton tonight is his rebounds. 11.5 rebounds. So in his last 5 games, he's gone over twice. So not a high hit rate at 11.5 boards, but 40% I should say. 40% hit rate at 11.5 rebounds. I'm not too mad at it. We're going to go ahead and pull up a projection for him. He's at 11.7 projected rebounds. So yeah, maybe you take a shot at DeAndre Ayton over on his rebounds versus his points. His points, again, were at 17.9. He's at 17.5 today. Rebounds at 11.7, and they're at 11.5 today, just to kind of give you an idea. What else are you guys talking about? So you're liking some DeAndre Ayton over rebounds. Mitchell Robinson rebounds. New and liking what you do. Appreciate that, RJ. Thank you so much for joining the live stream and being a part of what we do here every morning. Mitchell Robinson rebounds. We actually talked about Mitchell Robinson's points earlier, kind of liking him at just 5.5 points against the Bulls. Historically, he's owned the Bulls, and in his last 5 games, he's gone over 5.5 points in 4 out of 5, 80% hit rate. So I like Mitchell Robinson's points for sure. But to answer your question, Mitchell Robinson at 6.5 rebounds could also be a play. He has an 80% hit rate, covering 6.5 boards in his last 5 games. I can pull up a projection for Mitchell Robinson for you now. They got him projected at 7.1 rebounds. So that puts him over 6.5 by 0.6. And then the points are at 6.5, putting him over 5.5 points by 1 whole point. So either which way, I think both of those could make some sense. Maybe you hedge. Maybe you make 2 different entries with Mitchell Robinson. If you're really liking the points, if you're really liking the rebounds, maybe you make one with his points over. Maybe you make one with the rebounds over. Just as a way to hedge your entries a little bit, so you don't get totally burned by going all in 100% on Mitchell Robinson's rebounds. Says the Bulls defend well, so I want to see how Burks does tonight. All right, you could also, kind of sit out on Alec Burks, wait and see if the good trends for Alec Burks continue, or if they come to an end against a tougher Chicago Bulls team. Anthony mentions CJ McCollum points, because I know you're not talking about my points, because I always go over my points. So whatever my line is, I'm going over. You must be talking about CJ McCollum with that question mark after it. CJ McCollum at 24.5 points, though, guys. He drops 28 points in that last game against Detroit without Dame in the lineup. Another scenario where Roto Grinders court IQ can be very beneficial. You load up the Portland Trailblazers. You take Damian Lillard off the court. If Norman Powell's out, you take Norman Powell off the court. And then you set tonight's starting lineup, and you see how that group of guys plays together. Be mindful of the minutes, because if they've only taken the court, like let's say 10 or 15 minutes together, that's a pretty small sample size, and maybe we don't put so much faith in that, right? If there's 100 or 200 or 300 minutes where this group of guys has played together without Lillard, without Powell, then that's a larger sample size, something that we can probably hang our hat on and trust. But CJ McCollum right now, let's pull up a projection for you. This is obviously without me looking at court IQ. He's at 24.7 projected points, putting him ever so slightly over 24.5. So definitely check out, again, that court IQ tool, completely free. Christopher Pringle says, how long until the Suns versus the Detroit Pistons become a blowout? Third quarter? I don't know. Kind of tricky because no Devin Booker, right? So are the Suns still that way better than the Detroit Pistons? Easy for me to say. Are they still that much better than Detroit, even without Devin Booker in the lineup? It remains to be seen. It's a guess, but I would imagine that the starters for both teams get at least, I would say, 3 quarters, at least 3 good quarters of run. Just my guess, going off the top of the dome. Wes is liking CJ McCollum over points as well. Sadiq Bey under points. Yeah, we talked about Sadiq Bey, I think, briefly for his 3-point props. He's not up on the board for that, but maybe you go Sadiq Bey under points. Said's pretty sharp. So if he's saying Sadiq Bey under points, he might be onto something here. Yeah, I think we did look at this one, right? Kind of a high hit rate, was it? But, tough matchup tonight. Has gone under in 3 straight games. So, yeah, I think we go under on Sadiq Bey again tonight against Phoenix. I mean, if they could hold Steph Curry in check, maybe they hold Sadiq Bey in check too. What do you guys say? 13.8 projected points, though. This is just one site, obviously, one resource, so check some others. But they like them to go over 12.5 points on Sadiq Bey. Don't know that I love that exactly, though. Don't know that I love going over, I should say, on Sadiq Bey. Christopher Pringle says, I'm putting my 6-bedroom, 5-bathroom house on the line tonight. Wow. Well, you're really risking a lot here. I think over the last 3 days, you've lost $100,000. And I think you're coming down to just liquidating assets at this point. Sounds like you're down to putting the house out there, and hopefully you make something on the house. Did you take out a second mortgage on it? Is that what you did? Or did you just go ahead and sell it outright? Get a cash offer maybe, and now you're going to go ahead and flip that cash for your 6-bedroom, 5-bathroom house. Down here in Florida, a house that size would probably be going for, $400,000 or more. So that's a lot of money. But of course, the Florida's real estate market is just off the chain ever since COVID started. Will Charles, Dylan Brooks over 29 fantasy points with no Morant versus OKC. Yeah, you could go Dill Brooks. If you want to go Dylan Brooks, you can. Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr. were my go-tos the last time Ja Morant missed. But let's go ahead and fire up some Dylan Brooks here. 30.1 is his projection. Do we have Dylan Brooks up yet? Yep, he's at 29. So we're not seeing Ja Morant. So maybe PrizePicks is expecting no Ja Morant. But I mentioned Jaren Jackson Jr. had a great game last game. He racked up like 5 blocks against Toronto. Ended up with 48 fantasy points. I did run one of those Court IQ reports on the Memphis Grizzlies without Ja Morant. I can tell you right now that Jaren Jackson Jr. and Dylan Brooks are the top 2 beneficiaries without Ja Morant on the court. So that is what Court IQ can do for you. Can kind of help you identify who steps up when a guy like Morant is out. You guys are saying good luck to Chris Pringle on that flipping that house money on his player props tonight. Yeah, I wish him the best too, Chris. If you do not make it, well, it was nice to have you join in these live streams. I don't know what's next for you. I mean, obviously you have some sort of internet connection, maybe a computer, maybe a cell phone that you're watching the live stream on. Maybe that's the next thing to go. Maybe it's the last thing to go. Maybe you're going to get on here and say, hey, today's the day, guys. I'm going to pawn my cell phone. It's the last thing to my name, and I'm going to try and get whatever money I can for it, and I'm going to put it on some NBA player props. God, Chris, please tell me it hasn't come to that. Please say it ain't so. What else are we talking about here? Josh Grant under 20.5 versus Bridges Jail. Mikhail Jail. Is that a thing? Mikhail Jail. Is he a lockdown guy like that? Okay. Jeremy Grant, is he up at 20.5 actual points? That's Pascal Siakam. Yeah, I mean, if you think Jeremy gets jailed tonight, then for sure. I mean, he's at 19.5 on PrizePicks. So if you're getting him at 20.5, I'm guessing you're playing out somewhere else where he's at 20.5. But yeah, if Bridges is clamping like that, then yeah, maybe we take the under. Jeremy Grant is projected for 20.9 points, almost 21 points. So they like him to go over at 19.5. But at 20.5, it becomes a lot more tricky. So David Winker, thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate that sub, my friend. What else are we talking about here? Let's try to get through the rest of these here. We'll wrap this sucker up and send you on your way. And hopefully we go and make some money tonight. What do you think of Dylan Brooks over on Fantasy? We talked about him a little bit. Yes, both him and Jaren Jackson Jr. definitely in play for me. For me, I would probably take Jaren Jackson Jr. just because big guys against the Oklahoma City Thunder have feasted this year. We know what Christian Woods has done in terms of rebounding. He had like monster rebound games, pulled in over 20 boards. So I do like some Jaren Jackson Jr. probably a little bit more than I like Dylan Brooks tonight. I think Jaren Jackson Jr. could have a big game against the OKC Thunder. CP3 per 36 without Booker is 48.48 fantasy points. There you go. So you're using Court IQ, I'm guessing. Josh, not Drake. Anthony says, you're the man, CJ. You are the man, Anthony. Thank you so much for that compliment, though. Says, I think Memphis, OKC, tons of value. Basley under points, obviously. Bane over on threes and points. Absolutely. We got to fire up some Desmond Bane once again. Too far gone. Yo, CJ, do you happen to know of a site that you can plug in a player prop and it'll show you a list of the games that they hit that? I'm trying to find teammate stats when a specific player hits a prop. Chat, what do you think? Do you know of any sites? None that come to mind for exactly what you're looking for. Too far gone. Check out StatMuse, though. That is a good site. If you're looking for like how a player does historically, let's say in terms of FanDuel points, you can look that up. StatMuse has a lot of interesting little search functions, search results. So check out StatMuse. Maybe they have what you're looking for. Nick says, good morning, CJ. Hey, have you ever thought about NFL shows? I have, and I've actually done some NFL shows in the past. Thanks again. Bought some earbuds so I can listen in the kitchen at work. Our chef was getting mad because I listened to daily fantasy sports all day. Well, listen, before I started doing what I'm doing here for you guys on YouTube, back in my old career, which was working in IT, guess what I would be doing in between helping people at our help desk? I'd be out there researching daily fantasy sports. In fact, I got in trouble for doing it. So, eventually I got to the point where it's like, I would like to do this more than just on the side, more than just as a hobby and for fun. And here I am. A few years later, I'm here on YouTube helping hundreds and even thousands, dare I say, with their fantasy and sports betting stuff. Appreciate that though, Nick. That's a funny story. Kevin says he likes Drew Holiday's fantasy points over. I think Drew Holiday could be a move. Where is he at today? That's the question. He is at 33.5 fantasy points. I think he kind of had a bit of a bad game last night, if I'm not mistaken. Drew Holiday, 32 fantasy points against the Toronto Raptors. I like going at the Raptors with opposing big guys because they kind of play more of a small ball lineup. So maybe a Bobby Portis is also in play. Maybe a Giannis at 54. Maybe he's in play. That could be another move for you. What do they got Giannis projected at? 52.4. So they like him to go under. What did he do last night? He is on a back-to-back worth noting. 64 fantasy points. We'll call it 64 fantasy points. So yeah, I think those guys could be good plays. Bobby Portis is down to 27.5. I think he was at 32 yesterday. So he's down to 27.5 after a couple of disappointing games. But Bobby P, let's free him tonight, huh? Free Bobby P? What do you guys say? Let's find out his projection. He's at 31.9 projected points. So that puts him over 27.5. Maybe we go Bobby Portis. Thoughts on Fournier over threes? Well, Fournier is, as a lifelong Orlando Magic fan, I will be the first to tell you that Evan Fournier is probably one of the most frustrating, inconsistent players that I have laid eyes on. But I think you're asking about Fournier's threes because he's went over 2.5 3-point makes in 4 straight games. That's an 80% hit rate in his last 5 games. So 6, 3, 4, and 3. So even these 2 games here, Atlanta and Brooklyn, with Alec Burks getting 39 minutes of playing time, he still hits 4 and 3 3-point makes. Go for it. I would say take the over on 2.5 threes. Maybe you put, 1 or 2 entries together and you take the over. Wouldn't go too crazy. I do see that they've added my boy Fred VanVleet up on the board. My favorite time to go back to a prop is whenever it's coming off of a flop, and he absolutely flopped against Memphis, made just 1 3 in that game. Want to kind of wait and see how Gary Trent's status is looking, but Fred VanVleet at just 3 3-point makes. Maybe versus Milwaukee, we go to some Fred VanVleet in a potential bounce back spot. Kevin, Drew Holiday fantasy points, what y'all think? I'm going over. Yeah, we looked at that one. That could be a good spot against the Toronto backcourt. Not really mad at that. Precious Achiuwa under points. Well, Fusion, we have not talked any Precious Achiuwa here. He's at 19.5 against Milwaukee. He's gone under in 3 straight games. I think if the Toronto Raptors are close to 100%, meaning Gary Trent's back in the lineup and so on, that going under on Achiuwa makes a lot of sense here. It seems like Siakam and Barnes are really cutting into Achiuwa's scoring. He did have a couple games, like 4 and 5 games back, where he goes for 17 and 12. So there's maybe a little bit of risk here, but now that Toronto's healthy, I think Achiuwa could be a good underplay. They got him projected for 11.8. He's going to go against what? Bobby Portis tonight? Maybe even Giannis at times. It's going to be a tough night for Precious Achiuwa, I would think, going against both of those dudes. So yeah, Fusion, I think maybe going under on Achiuwa makes a little sense here. Said even Suns bench warmers are good at defending forward, so I love Bay under points. All right, good point. Mawande, since Booker is out, how are you feeling about Crowder's 3-point makes? I think he'll probably take more, but again, court IQ can help that guess become more of a factual thing. You can kind of see how Jay Crowder does without Devin Booker in. Does his 3-point makes go up? Does his 3-point attempts go up? So check that out, Moan. But just, going right off the top of my head, I would say that you should expect Jay Crowder to probably take and hopefully make more shots. So Jay Crowder at what's his 3-point line? 1.5 or 2.5. If he's at 1.5, I'd say take the over. If he's at 2.5, a lot more risky. They got Van Vliet at 19.5 points. Oh, that seems kind of steep. He was just at 18.5, I want to say, in his last game. At 19.5, can he get it done? Yeah, he can. I think I would rather take a shot on him making 3 3-pointers, though. I don't know. 19.5, I'm not sure. Josh says Drew over 14.5. He's covered in 4 out of 5 games. Yeah, maybe. Chris Pringle, don't do it. Jeremy Grant has been carrying the Pistons. Yeah, but, he's going to be locked up. He's going to be locked up by Mikhail Jail, apparently. Noel says he likes StatMuse for sure. Check out StatMuse, probably the best one. Mitchell Robinson over on fantasy points or boards. Well, Jeff, I think you've been in here since the beginning this morning. I think we liked Mitchell Robinson's points, and we mentioned his rebounds, but maybe you could go to his fantasy points as well. Euphoric Tay says, definitely got to get Robinson on rebounds. He's a putback god. Absolutely. And if he's getting putbacks, then he's going to get his points, right? At 5.5. Pavel says, no one covers like prize picks like you do. Keep it up. Well, there's a reason why I'm the #1 prize picks content creator, why they've, recognized my work. I've been on prize picks since before anybody else out there has been doing prize picks. Go back to January 1st of this year when I started doing prize picks videos on YouTube. Nobody was doing prize picks. So I recognized a little gap in the content space and I took advantage of it, planting my flag here on prize picks. So Anthony says he averages 7 points and they have him at 5.5. Easy lock. Yeah, you're talking about Mitchell Robinson's points, I think. David Winker says they moved Fournier down to 2 and that caught my eye. Let's refresh here. Maybe he's onto something. Did they move Evan Fournier's threes down? Oh, they did. He's no longer at 2.5. He is down to 2. Yeah, at 2, we got to take a shot at that, right? Worst case, maybe we end up in a push, but I ain't mad at that. Last few questions, and I'm going to get up out of here. Dang, it's already been almost an hour and a half. I just lose track of time talking to you folks. I hope you appreciate all the time that I give and spend with you guys. If you do, drop a like if you haven't yet. We're trying to run them likes up to 100 or more. Let's do it again. Giannis at 5.5 assists. He averages 6. Yeah, we could go with some Giannis Antetokounmpo against the Toronto Raptors. He has gone over 5.5 in 1, 2, 3. That's a 60% hit rate. Where is he projected tonight? That is a curious little question. He's at 5.8 projected assists, so they got him going slightly over 5.5. So don't mind you taking a stab at Giannis Antetokounmpo. Lou Dort over fantasy. Man, I don't know about Lou Dort, guys. Look, his name always seems to come up on these streams. He's at 26 fantasy points. He's gone over in 1, 2, 3. So a 60% hit rate at going over 26 fantasy points. This guy is just hard to trust for me. I would say he's at 27.6 projected fantasy points. I would say if Josh Giddey's out again, maybe we fire up a little bit of Lou Dort. Just a little bit, though. I ain't going crazy on him. Middleton over 4.5 assists. I've been taking some Middleton rebounds. Where's he at on his rebounds tonight? Not up on the board? Yeah. Didn't think so. Middleton at 4.5 rebounds has been fantastic. Middleton on assist. I have not been playing that, but we could take a quick look at it. 4.5 dimes. He's gone over in 3 straight games. So maybe Middleton is a good assist play. Let's pull up a projection for him. Remember, this is just high-level research, guys. You're going to definitely want to dig a little bit deeper than what I have time to do here on YouTube, but they got him projected at 5.3 assists, so you could probably take a shot at some Chris Middleton. Nick says, I just took 2 1.5 3-point makes for Fournier. Hey, if it's been within 5 minutes, you can cancel your entry on PrizePicks if that's where you took him at. Yeah, Fusion, they did not put Basley up today for a very good reason. RJ says if they keep a tight rotation, what about Derek White points? I think that could be a move. You guys help Debnesh out. He's asking for a good prop. Mitchell Robinson over 5.5 points, I think, could be a good prop. But that's going to be it, guys. I think we've kind of reached the end. We've done as much as we could possibly do on a short 5-game slate today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. Doesn't hurt to hit the sub button. And turn on notifications so you don't miss any of these live streams in the future. And absolutely drop a like. I will catch you guys in the next one. These allergies are starting to kick my ass. So time for me to go. I've been talking too much. I'll catch you in the next one, guys. Peace out.